Hey there, Twimsters. Welcome once again, and thank you for tuning in to another harrowing edition of This Week in Mormons, the greatest podcast in the entire world. That's right, I said it. Move over, Joel Osteen. We've got this covered. On this week's special show, however, we're going to flip the calendar back a few pages, because about 18 months ago, we had the privilege of interviewing the producer and host of Relative Race. And if you're not familiar with Relative Race, it's a terrific BYU TV program that brings some competition to the proceedings, but at the end of the day, it's really about uniting families. And as the seasons have gone on, the contestants have shown up with some incredible stories, and watching them reunite with loved ones, meet them for the first time, and really see the power of the spirit of Elijah on screen is really something special. And when we interviewed Dan, we thought it would be just kind of a nice way to plug the show and learn some behind-the-scenes stuff, which is part of the interview. But what I really love in reflecting on it is how passionate Dan is about the genealogical aspect of it, about bringing people together, even contestants who don't make it on air, for example, about still letting them link together with their families. There's something really, really moving and useful in that. And because season 6 of Relative Race just premiered this past weekend, you should check it out if you haven't done so, we thought it'd be a great time to revisit this interview and see what we can learn about family history and how BYU TV has really amplified its content in recent years. But the great thing we like to stress about Relative Race is, it's not just this competition show. Yes, there's a prize at the end, but at the end of the day, there's something a lot more meaningful behind it. So with that, I will hand it over to myself. All right, well now, listeners, we are very excited to bring on our special guest for this week's episode. Dan Debenham from Relative Race is with us. Hi, Dan.
Hey, how you doing, Jeff?
I'm super. Thanks for being with us.
Anytime.
Well, we're big fans of Relative Race on the show. We're supporters, very excited. Incidentally, if I can self-indulge for just a moment, I found out about Relative Race 2 years ago when season 1 came on because my co-host Al was featured on Turning Point. And watching that on... Yes, so after watching that on the BYU TV app, my wife and I were perusing, and when we saw Relative Race, we're big Amazing Race fans, and we're into genealogy, and that's how we got into it. So Al, I guess we have you to thank for this.
I honestly, I feel like most of the success of Relative Race comes back to me.
That's
so
what
welcome.
I was thinking. I was thinking, why are you guys even talking to me? It's Al that we should all be speaking to right now.
Yeah, but anyways, that popped in my head last night, so I'm glad we got to do this just in time when I thought of that. But yeah, Al was
Dan,
on Turning Point. Go figure.
How did you get tied into Turning Point, man? Or not Turning Point, into Relative Race? Was that your idea? Was that kind of your baby, or are you just a hired gun for your good looks? Or
it's an interesting combination. So we had created. When I say we, meaning Lensworks Productions, which consists of, we've got a nice boutique group here of about 20 individuals. But my business partner and I, we kicked this production company off about 18 years ago. And about 7 years ago, we created a show for BYU TV called Dining with the Dean. And that's where the relationship began. And we were looking for ways to work together after Dining with the Dean. And we had a couple of key people at BYU TV approach us about 4 years ago that said, in essence, they said, look, we've had people from Ancestry.com come and talk to us about creating a show with them in mind and a new division that they are getting ready to launch called Ancestry DNA. And you guys do a really good job of coming up with original television. And so what about something that could be created with a discovery of family through DNA? And so from there, that was kind of the opening salvo. That was the opening conversation. And we talked a little bit more creatively, some possibilities that they had in their mind. We definitely brought in budget. That does matter. We talked about budget and we talked about expectations. And my business partner and I, Tom and I, said, well, look, why don't we get back to you in about 3 weeks? Give us about 3 weeks and we'll come up with some concepts. And the one that we really quickly gravitated towards internally here at LensWorks was this show that we tentatively called Relative Race, and came back, pitched them on Relative Race, and everybody said, let's give it a shot. That was season 1, and from there we certainly hope that we have refined it over the last 2 seasons. Now season 3, and we're in pre-production and casting right now and research for season 4. And it looks like we may have commitment for future seasons beyond that, but nothing's set in stone until there's a contract signed. But we love what we're doing. We dig the show. It has more meaning than anything else we've ever worked on in our careers, and it's just really cool.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Last night, my wife and I sat down to watch the season 3, right? You're 3 episodes in, and like literally episode 1, you got a guy that's meeting his father for the first time. You've got the Team Black that's like, she's finding her, like she never knew her mom after like 5 years old, and she's meeting all of these aunts and uncles that she had no idea exist. It's like you've got the most emotionally tapped in story of any TV show I've ever watched. It's pretty unreal, the content that you get to work with in there.
You know, we appreciate that. When you use the term unscripted or reality, in my opinion, that's been so overly used and kind of abused, meaning abusing the audience with kind of this inane, nonsensical, trying to peek at the worst of people with unscripted, reality-based programming. And we realized quickly how real that this show would be, again, without any scripting. And so we look to do just the opposite, which is there is absolutely zero scripting that takes place in this. Nobody's told what to do. We have, 30 cameras rolling, and we've done, just an incredible, intense amount of research to build these discoveries of family, and you can't script those moments that you just talked about. You cannot script when somebody who has been searching for family their entire life, and all of a sudden they knock on a door, they're in the middle of a competition, and their emotions have to take a complete 180 from being in race mode and competitive mode to all of a sudden realizing that the real reason that they're doing this just stepped out of the door and introduced themselves as, I'm your daddy, or I'm your aunt, or I'm your cousin, or I'm your brother, or I'm your sister. And for people who have never had any family, that moment you can't script. It's unbelievable. And that's why it's been so tremendously gratifying, both personally and professionally. It's to research and to be able to build to those moments and then see them unfold in front of you in real time and know that we get to present that to a nationwide audience it's just very humbling, and it's very rewarding.
Yeah, man.
For sure. Can you tell us about what is the process for the research? Like, how do you go about this? Finding all these families and setting all that up. I imagine it's got to be a huge potential logistical headache. So what goes into all of that to set all that up?
I worked on a lot of shows when I was at ESPN. I spent 8 years at ESPN, and during that time I wrote, produced, and hosted around 40 shows a year. And as detailed and as much effort as that took, I have never in my life thought that there could be anything more difficult as what we tackle every season on Relative Race, which is first the casting process, and that is to find somebody that, quite frankly, we hope is going to be good on television, but also has a very deep personal story that we hope to unfold, over 10 episodes, 10 days of racing. Then once we narrow it down to about 20 couples, We then start reaching out to their relatives. Well, first of all, we do the research, and there for each team there is assigned a professional genealogist, and they work with a team internally here at LensWorks. They work with a team of 3 internal people for each team. So there's this total of 4 people per team researching to find relatives and then reach out to them and contact those relatives and say, look, are you interested in being on this show? Will you be on the show? And half the time we're shot down right out of the,
Wow.
right off the bat, meaning people are saying, look, I don't know you. I don't trust you. I don't know a television show. I don't want to be a part of it. Leave me alone.
Wow.
When we get past that and people will actually listen to us, it's amazing how quickly they want to be a part of it. Then we've got to make sure that they'll sign the contracts. Then we've got to make sure that they line up with routes that allow us to drive a realistic distance each day of the race. So it just goes on and on and on. And then we narrow that down ultimately to 4 teams and 4 backups, because you never know as that process continues. And this process, by the way, that I'm describing takes about 6 to 7 months. And that's just all in pre-production and research. Then we have it down to those 9 relatives for the 9 days of racing and discovery per team. So that's 9 times 4, that's 36. And then, of course, day 10 is a very different format. Those that survive, right, the teams that survive to get to day 10, they're no longer looking for living relatives. We're really dialed in on that ultimate financial prize, which is part of the process as well. So again, that's the interesting thing. This show, we were challenged when we talked with BYU TV and when we talked with Ancestry, we were challenged with making it relevant to today's programming while being meaningful and true to what the purpose of the end result of the show was, ultimately to discover family. But we came up with this concept again of a true race. And if you're going to have a race with real results, what's the end prize? Now, certainly you can argue, and I happen to sit on the side of the fence that, look, your prize is paid off every day that you get to meet relatives that you didn't know that you had and you've never met before. But in today's world, look, we're realists and we're trying to create a very entertaining show that is well received and accepted and even critically acclaimed. And to that effort, we won the Synopsis Award a year and a half ago for Best New Reality Show in America. So we really try to hit everything while understanding that ultimately, and most importantly, this is a show about discovering, finding, and connecting with family for people who have been searching for that their entire lives.
Now, back in the when it flashes back to the headquarters, you seem like a real hard A back there. You run a tight ship. It's all business.
Did you say hard A? I'm a hard A. Yeah. Versus a hard B? Is that versus a hard C?
It's a family-friendly show.
Yeah, Yeah. You seem like a real jerk.
Well, look,
No,
I've got a bunch
Al,
of people
how dare
that there has to be an ultimate person that is making ultimate calls and is moving things ultimately along. So not only do I, meaning at our company, we certainly wear a lot of hats. But in this show, I also wear a lot of hats, specifically. And I am a co-creator. I am an executive producer, but I'm also the host of the show. And sometimes it's a little like herding cats, So look, we are filming live to tape. So it's not like when we have that go to meeting call, that video conference call every night. That's done live. That's not done after the fact. That's done every night live. When you see me talking with those 4 people, that's happening every night of the race. So I go out for day 1, then I fly back to our offices, and then I fly back out to the race for the end of day 10. But otherwise, I'm back there exactly as you see, having those video conference calls. Now, obviously, I know what's taking place throughout the day because I'm getting phone calls from our producers, our directors of photography. I'm sending out texts and getting texts back, and so that's why I try to bring it all together. This show is certainly not about me. This show, the host of this show, in this case me, is merely there as a traffic cop. They're just trying to neatly, correctly, direct the flow that it needs to that needs to take place. So I literally try to back out of this show as much as possible and just move, but it's got to move along.
It's kind of a cool element though. There's like that urgency to it.
Yeah, there certainly is, because these guys have been racing sometimes. They might have gotten in their cars literally at 6:45 in the morning, and then it's 10:30 at night when we're having that conference call sometimes, and they are physically but emotionally completely spent.
What's crazy about that though? You've got a guy in your office that was looking at a map for the entire day. Every shot back there, he's still looking at the same map.
No, it's not the same. It's not the same map. It's a different map.
He's never found where he's going on that thing.
Al, you bring up one of my favorite things, and I mean this with so much affection. But I've always loved some of the relative race office shots when it does seem like it seems
like a downtown New York office. You got to be in Provo, right? Are you in like
Salt Lake City? Salt Lake.
Yeah.
Salt Lake.
But I have
a good downtown shot.
It is. I have always loved those. We flew our drone up to get all those exteriors. Now, got it, you guys. You guys can't. What am I talking about this stuff from? That's the magic of television.
Now, Dan, I will say this: the relative race offices have moved, at least on television, from season to season. Now
they have, and they're not moving. They're not moving anymore. We're not moving them anymore.
So was that actually the case? Like last season, did you actually have
yes,
sort of a setup office in Boston where you were calling the shots and running things until the finale?
No, that was also Salt Lake City. And what happened is we quickly got word from the producers, the executive producers at BYU TV and the director of programming, that said the same thing you guys are asking right now, which is, hey, we didn't know you had offices in Boston. and I said,
where's our money going?
We don't. And they said, oh, guys, we can't. You can't. We got to change that. You can't say that these are the Boston offices. And we went, really? Because that's part of television. So we quickly got word, and to that point, it doesn't say where we're at. It says relative race offices, and that's because every season the show is refined, and I hope that it gets better. But that you've pointed out one of the things that we have changed, and part of it, by the way, changed purely because of budget as well, meaning. Budget changed. And initially, look, season 1 was, hey, here's a concept. Let's see if it works. And it was kind of proof of concept. Season 2 was, hey, we like the concept, but we've got to make it network worthy. And our point was, great, let's do that together. But together means we don't have the money. So let's talk. And we did. And so, those budgets have stayed in place. And I find it very interesting. The BYU TV, the way that they work, and I really admire this, and we take it very seriously, is the production dollars come from private donors that specifically donate to BYU TV productions. No. And so we take that very, very seriously. And we're very careful with those production dollars, and we try to maximize them while trying to achieve again an award-winning look at bringing family together.
Yeah.
You mentioned some of the changes over the seasons, and I've noticed these as well. And one of the big changes for season 3. Is that they're not all the teams didn't. They started off in Washington, D.C., which is where I am, by the way. I would have appreciated the phone call, so I could have come to the taping. But anyway, they started off there. But instead, then
one of the many deficiencies that I have is clearly I'm not good at keeping up with my close personal contacts like I should. So I apologize.
Come on, Dan.
Come on.
Yeah, I know.
We go back.
I know. at least 20 minutes now.
In previous seasons, they all started off in one starting line and then they went from there, and I have noticed it's changed because in season 1, they all started in San Francisco and they made their way across the United States, some in, northern, southern parts, but they made their way across the whole country. In season 2, they pretty much just went up the eastern seaboard. And I imagine a lot of that has to do with finding all the right families. But now in season 3, instead, they all flew to different locations across the country. And we don't know where the final city is. I don't know if they're all en route to coalesce there or if they'll just fly there at the end. But what kind of drove that new approach where instead you break them all up onto completely different trajectories? Was that more because of the difficulty in finding family members and trying to make a line for each team to follow, so to speak, and that's just easier when you break them up?
Yeah, there's two parts of that. You have named one of those elements right there. That's completely correct. When we settled on our 4 teams that are on this season, and when we discovered where their family was and how to create a route, we were really at a loss. We were just like, we're hosed. How do we make this work? So the other part of that is clearly by design, and that is not to confuse loyal viewers, just the opposite. It is to just twist it up a little bit. So when they think they know the show, it's like, whoa, the show just changed. And I can tell you that we'll be doing that again for season 4, which we're right now, as I said, in pre-production and planning, and we'll be shooting in May and we'll air this fall. BYU TV has now asked for 2 seasons per calendar year. Yeah, so we're going to be airing spring and fall now.
That's exciting. Glad to hear that. I don't have to wait a whole year in between seasons. That's awesome.
That's one of the big comments that we hear from viewers is and again, we're grateful for these kind of positive postings that you get is people are saying, the worst thing about the end of Relative Race is I have to wait a year before I can watch it again. Well, that's not going to be the case now.
That's great, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Go ahead.
I'm dying to know on the people that are like the backups. So the 4 that didn't make it on,
the understudies. Yes,
the understudies of. It's such an emotional thing, right? You've already gone and done all of the research. I'm assuming so that you have like routes lined up and everything. Do you give them these experiences even though they don't make it on the show?
Yes. So every contact that we make, that's one of the biggest questions of concern that we get from viewers. And of course, the beauty is with social media, you now know instantaneously what people like, what they're concerned, what their thoughts are. Everybody posts everything, and one of the biggest questions of concern that we get is, please tell me, Dan, and I get personally emailed and sent things because you can quickly see that you can quickly see that it is a LensWorks Productions, and if you Google LensWorks, you can email me, and I get those emails sometimes that are like, you are the biggest scum on earth. How can you send that person home when they had 3 more days of relatives to meet? And our point is, no. Wait, guys, sorry. We don't have the time to explain all those nuances. But yes, every bit of research that we do for anyone, whether they appear on the show or not, gets sent to those people. That's the point of the show is to find the family. And it's not like we're going to do the research and then go, yeah, we did all this research, but you didn't make it on, so you don't get the big prize.
That's 3 strikes.
Family. Yeah, we send everybody. Yeah, we send everybody the research on everybody.
I was wondering about that because last season, for example, Team Black, I think, sort of hit the new zenith for dramatic storylines. With him meeting his father in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, up until this year. Of course, I know obviously you're building on it, but I remember thinking that last season, like, what would have happened if they would have gotten booted before he met his dad? I figured there was a contingency in place, but
there is, including the way that we would have produced the shows. So while everything is recorded live to tape on all of those cameras, we then bring that all back in and we have to edit all of those because we're recording thousands of hours. And of course, while we had a 90-minute premiere this season for the first episode, the rest of the episodes are 1 hour. And we've got to figure out how to take hundreds of shooting hours every day and condense that down to an hour. And as part of that, we have contingencies on if somebody receives their third strike, and they are missing a huge part of their story, then we have different contingencies on how to edit that into the, and to this point, we've never had that scenario happen. But I can tell you that it could occur this season, and I can tell you that we're certainly planning for contingencies on that for season 4, because it looks like it could happen for season 4 as well. So we have contingencies to how to in post-production, how to edit in those storylines, even though they may not officially be part of the race anymore. We've talked about ways to make sure that the viewers are satisfied with seeing results. And by the way, that is a byproduct of what you just discussed, which was Joe, Team Black on season 2, and the personal comments that I personally received, where people were like, "How could you send him home?" And our point is, well, again, it's a race, but we also get it's a television show, and you have invested your time and emotions as viewers into the show, and we want to deliver payment on that, and we've got various ways to do that.
So do you have like a favorite story that didn't make it on of either one of the understudies or one of the teams?
Yes, we do. I've got, oh my gosh, I have so many of those. It's hard to narrow it down to one. I can tell you that we had twin. Okay, let me go back. We had 2 brothers that were going to be on the show that we wanted to cast on the show. And they were not brothers by blood. They were both adopted by the same family. Okay. So, and yet they knew nothing of their blood biological parents. And so they were, as adopted brothers raised in the same family, out on a quest to find their biological parents.
Oh man.
And we found the mother, the biological mother of one of those young men. The brothers were 29 and 35. And we found the biological mother. It took we hired private detectives. You can't believe what we go through sometimes just we often have to bring in legal help to unseal court documents and records, and we have to petition courts, and in this case, we found the biological mother, and we found, as a result of that, we found all of his family, and they would not be on the show. They just said, "Nope, won't do it."
Oh,
we said, But we said, but you have a son that wants to meet you. And the mother, breaking your heart, said, "I don't care. I don't want to meet him.
Wow.
I don't want to be on this show."
Wow.
And you just sit there and you go, to you and I, we don't get that, right? But the one thing I've learned in my years is, I haven't walked in other people's shoes. And I don't know what's going through her head. I don't know what her life has been like. But, I can tell you that we negotiated, I can tell you that we negotiated an ability for them to connect with each other if they so chose to.
Okay.
So that's what we said, look, it's in your hands. Here's how you get a hold of him. And
so when you go back to this potential contestant, can you tell him that, hey, we found your mom, but she doesn't want to meet you?
I really probably should leave that one alone. And I'm not trying to be dramatic here, guys. I'm just saying that This one is a fairly recent situation, and it was it's really convoluted. It's really difficult.
It's raw. Yeah, it's hard.
And now on the flip side, we've got some really hilarious moments that never made it on the show. I mean, just some really great moments that just they wound up on the cutting room floor because the rest of the stuff was.
Sure.
It worked in a different way. As we're putting the shows together, we thought that this was going to be amazing, but as it all come together, we decided, no, that's more emotional, so we're going to go in this direction. And there's some things that are just fantastic that haven't made them in the show. This year, I can tell you that this year, season 3 that's currently airing, BYU TV Online is going to be airing at times, and I don't know the specifics of it because it's in their marketing and social media department. We've delivered a bunch of extra footage from the episodes that will air exclusively online.
Oh, okay.
Little webisodes, maybe?
Yeah, they're little webisodes. They're just kind of extra moments. One of them is, I put my eyes on everything before it goes out, and I remember reviewing one of this. Each of the extra content they've asked it to be around 60 seconds, and one of them was I'm just sitting there just thinking, man, I'm telling you, I am so close to this because I went in and watched this 60 seconds of footage, and I was just sobbing, just sobbing my eyes out. It is so beautiful and so meaningful. And I'm so grateful that BYU TV said, look, give us additional footage if you feel it's there that we can air online only. And
wow.
So there's some really cool additional online moments.
So I'd like to ask you about some of the Mormon angle of this. It's BYU TV, we're a Mormon podcast, all that good stuff. And so because it's BYU TV, there's certain standards.
You guys are Mormon?
I'm serious, Dan.
You're Mormon?
It happened.
We're the hard A Mormons.
Ask the missionaries. They can help you. They know everything. So
I've got 2 young men in white shirts and ties, or 2 beautifully dressed young ladies that'll come and visit with you and tell you about this interesting story of a young man that went out to find out for himself which church to join. And we've got the answer for you, and it's called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm sorry, so go on.
Oh, Dan, fresh from his gig at teaching at the MTC this afternoon. Man, he was ready. Okay. But what I wonder is how much of church standards do they try to enforce? I know BYU TV, of course, has stretched out a lot in recent years. It's wholesome programming, but they're trying not to be overtly religious as they have been in years past. But
I've noticed a lot of hex and gosh darn it.
Exactly. Like, do you have to tell them not to curse on camera? Do they drink on the side? Are there rules in place or anything like that?
Well, you probably remember that there are standards that we do need to adhere to. And we don't have any problem with that. When Tom and I created, my business partner's name is Tom Zadunich, and when Tom and I got together to create LensWorks Productions, this was about 19 years ago, we, long before we had any interaction with BYU TV, we personally wanted to create what we called programming with a purpose. And so, I came from ESPN, Tom came from ABC, and so, boy, talk about a real match made in Mormondom was this wonderful relationship with BYU TV, which there was no BYU TV when LensWorks Productions was first formed. Having said that, moving forward, this show, which is a unscripted reality show that captures all of the moments, there's certain things that are clearly need to be adhered to, and we have no problem with that, which is we're not going to bleep anything out like every other unscripted show. It's all bleeped. Well, here you don't hear anything bleeped because we don't include anything. Now, is that to say that there are people on the show that curse? Yeah, the answer is absolutely. Some of the sweetest people that you've seen on the show, part of their lexicon and the way that they grew up is they've got different language. And we just don't include it. And when it happens, our producers are constantly reminding people saying, yeah, you know that one word you really like to describe, it's an adjective, it's a verb, it's a noun, it's a pronoun. You can't use that. So the other thing is we don't show smoking. We don't show actively drinking. But you clearly see wine and other things in shots. Let me be clear. BYU TV executives have been amazing to work with, and they recognize these are really talented people. They've come from, they have very distinguished backgrounds in the television and production industries and ad agencies industries, and they understand the reality of what BYU TV is and what they're trying to be. And that statement is clear that this is a gift. BYU TV is the LDS Church's gift to the world. And all they're looking for is like-minded viewers. People that just don't want to hear bleeps every other word. And, that's what they're trying. They're looking for like-minded viewers, a place to go where you can turn it on and actually enjoy meaningful content and programming. And that's what we do. Now, it doesn't mean that that's what we capture all the time, but that's what we deliver. The person will go unnamed, but I can tell you that there is a person that was on the show and nobody would ever guess how this person talks, because this person is, I swear, they're still probably one of the most popular individuals that's been on Relative Race. And you would just not believe what comes out of her mouth. And it's because she just doesn't know it's just how she grew up. And it's not meant in an offensive way at all. It's just part of her. It's part of her vocabulary. And we just, constantly had to say, yeah, you really gotta rein that in, okay? And it was kind of adorable to watch. And by the way, it's kind of few and far between that this is what takes place on a daily basis. And those that use that language quickly, it's a matter of habits, right? And those habits change pretty quick when you've got a bunch of cameras in your face all the time and a producer that's going, yeah, you can't say that. Oh, nope, you can't say that. Oh, nope, you can't say that. So that changes really quickly. And it's usually after a couple of days that rare individual, it's just gone. That's gone from their lexicon after a couple of days. They just don't use it anymore. And what's interesting is to hear them talk about it off camera after the show is all shot and we stay in touch with them, and they just say, you guys I didn't really realize how I talked. And man, it's kind of refreshing that I don't talk like that anymore. My friends back home have commented on it, et cetera, et cetera.
It's not
the BYU TV. I was just going to say, guys, that BYU TV, a lot of people think, I think there's some assumptions that because this airs on BYU TV, that these people are LDS, for instance. Well, they're not. And in fact, BYU TV has made it clear that, look, we're not in any way, shape, or form interested in casting Mormons on the show. Now, if they happen to, their point is, if they happen to be part of the good storytelling and part of the people in the casting efforts, and that works out, then that's great too. But they've made it clear that this isn't a Mormon show. This is a show about finding family.
Yeah. So building on that, you make me want to ask one question. As any good Mormon does, I like to Mormon watch. You're looking at a crowd, you try to pick us out. It's normal habit we're all involved in. Have there been Mormons?
I had you pegged a long time ago, by the way. I knew you were Mormon.
My guess, you can refute this, is that in the 3 seasons of the race, 2 of the teams have been LDS. Am I correct or not?
Yes or no, Dan? We want answers.
That is correct. Actually, that is correct.
Now it's our personal life.
I'm curious. That is actually correct, and I'm curious to see if you know which two teams.
Okay, my guess is Team Green from season 1 and Team Black on the current season.
You know, sometimes know-it-alls really bother me.
I mean, Team Black gives it away. He's doing the T-shirt with the crew neck wide underneath. No normal person does that unless there's a good reason to, right? It just goes against the rules of fashion. So it just gives it away. You just assume.
I got to tell you that somebody in our company came to me about a month before we filmed this season 3, and they said, Dan, you're not going to believe this. And I said, what? They said, you know Team Black? And I said, Team Black from what season? They said, the season we're about to film. And I said, yeah. And they go, they're Mormon. And I said, really? They said, yeah. And what was interesting is we didn't have a hint of that. And we'd been working with them for 3 months. Didn't have a hint. It's not in their backroom that they happen to be converts to the church. And it's meaning it didn't come up in their background and research or any of those things. So we were very, very surprised to discover that, because that wasn't any part. We had no knowledge of that in the casting situation, and all of our Skype calls and going down and doing their backstory and filming them leading up to it. We didn't have any idea of that.
Oh, how gnarly. That's so funny.
You should fire that PI that he couldn't find that out.
Well, or maybe it's on Team Black for not letting their light so shine that, you can pick up on.
Look, I grew up in California, Alaska, and Connecticut. So it's not like I grew up in these bastions of the church. So I don't go around in the crowd going, I think she's a Relief Society president. Oh, Elders Quorum president right there. Yeah.
Oh, Dan, you got to, I grew up by Disneyland. You got to spend more time there. You can pick out Mormons like it's like shooting fish in a barrel at Disneyland. It's outstanding.
If you were single as long as Jeff and I were,
also
you get
true.
Pretty good at fun.
I will tell you this. I will admit this. When I spent those years at ESPN, people would meet my wife and they would just look at me and say, "Where did you find her?" And I said, "Utah." And there's about 100,000 others they're just that gorgeous. And they're like, "Are you serious?" And I go, "Oh yeah." I said, "Those Mormons, they know how to raise beautiful women. Let me tell you." There were people like, "So she's a Mormon too?" And I'd say, "Yeah, can you believe that? I'm a Mormon and she's a Mormon too." Yeah.
Those Scandinavian converts, they really did us a solid.
No, my wife does not look Scandinavian. I thought she was Italian when I met her in college. No, I married way over my head. Way over my head.
Oh, you've practiced that line from many a sacrament meeting talk, haven't you?
No, if you saw my wife and met her, you would realize, you'd kind of go, "So explain, why did you marry Dan?" What? I don't get this, because she is bright, beautiful, stunning. She is the life of a party. She knows how to make everybody else feel fantastic, whereas I just kind of suck at those things, I think. So, yeah, she's great.
She sounds like a real nice lady.
She is. She's amazing.
Well, we're grateful she's given you us, Dan. So it still works out.
That's right.
We're all happy. Well, everybody, we hope, if you have not seen Relative Race, wonderful show over there on BYU TV. The BYU TV app is all over the place now. It's on like every single streaming platform that I'm
got it on Xbox. All right, so you have no excuse.
Yeah, it's on everything. So
the way I figure it, guys, is you could go outside and connect two electrical currents together, hold it up in a cloudy day, and you're going to be able to pick up BYU TV.
That's right.
Well, maybe if you're in Utah, but for the rest of us, we're streaming everything. But folks, check it out. We're a couple of episodes into season 3, so it's not too late to hop on and see the rest of the season. I imagine there are many more surprises awaiting us as the season goes on. I would assume, Dan, you can vouch for that or not.
Guys, I can tell you honestly, our challenge has been, and we've been given this challenge to say, "Yep, we want another season," and I don't know how you're going to make it better. But I can tell you that this season is, it's just amazing. The connections, the families, the storylines that develop. It's It's amazing. It's amazing. And we hope we can capture that again in season 4 and beyond.
I'm sure you will. Dan, I look forward to seeing you every Sunday with dramatic B-roll footage of the relative race office, with everyone acting like it's
there you go.
Like it's the red alarm, fire, whatever military analogy we can
It's
give.
so good.
But by the way, as a side note, my favorite was because of Hurricane Harvey. You had an entire screen dedicated to weather, and I just love seeing that every single week. Like these people, this is fierce. This is fierce, people. Don't mess around.
I'm impressed that you pick those things up. We are actually hoping that people pick those things up because they're the little details that we think matter. But yes, that's the point.
Yeah.
That hurricane hit right as we were filming it, and that's what's in the background. Yeah, because we had to track that hurricane.
Oh, I love the super intense command center. It's one of my favorite parts of the show, actually. I just every week.
Dude, it's kind of fun, yeah.
It's awesome.
Guys, you can just call me, I think I am James T. Kirk, and you are all aboard the Starship Enterprise.
I want you to use that line. Absolutely.
All right, well, Dan Debenham, thank you so much for the time, and good luck with all future editions of Relative Race, and we're grateful for your success and for you taking the time to talk to us today.
Hey, guys, it was my pleasure. I hope we can do it again in the future, okay?
Love to do it. Take care, buddy.
All right. We'll see you, man.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Well, that was great, huh?
Oh, the best.
I like Dan. He's a good dude.
Dan, what a guy.
Dan the man.
All right, Jeff. Well,
I really enjoyed that, actually. Everyone, make sure to watch Relative Race. Do it.
It's our favorite.
They don't pay us in any way to say that. It's just
literal tears. Tears. There's tears on the side of my face, and it was flames, and the flames were coming.
Good clue reference. Good clue reference right there.
Thank you.
The one thing I will say, though, is, Al, I think you and I only would have qualified for like season 1 when they were still figuring it out. I don't think I'm interesting enough now, and I don't have a cool genealogy story to merit being on Relative Race, which is kind of sad.
Also, I mean, you're not as excited about your relatives. You'd be like, oh, you're my cousin, whatever.
I did want to ask Dan, we didn't have time, if he had any stories of kind of more awkward encounters with relatives that didn't make it on camera, just because it had to be there. They meet people from all walks of life, and naturally you're going to gel better with some than others. So I imagine there's something to that. It's just normal. Just because someone's your relative doesn't mean you hit it off perfectly, but I'm sure it's great.
We'll ask him next time.
He did hint that he would like to come back. So
everybody, we enjoy your emails. contact@thisweekinmormons.com. We're still reading them. Read them all the time. By the way, Sunday School Bonanza listeners, I just want to apologize, but you can send your hate mail towards Al, who has yet to figure out our redirect to fix our feed. I'll do it one of these days. Of these days.
We're like going to be months behind when this gets there. So the point is, Sunday School Bonanza still exists. It's just that right now the feed is pulling in the TWIM feed. So you just get to listen to TWIM on both channels. It's great.
Booyah.
Anyway, social, though, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. If you haven't done so, that would be an excellent thing to do. You can take part in all the great fraternity that we have there. So, Al, thanks for joining us this week.
Anytime. See you, Jeff.
Love you, buddy. Everyone, be well, be holy, and be
wise.